The Against All Odds podcast, sponsored by Oak Forest Recovery.
Welcome to the Against All Odds podcast. I am your host, Rachel. We're here with co-host RJ, and we have Aaryn MJ, aka Slitherpuss, in the building today.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
I know, I'm so happy. I feel like I know you are. We were
Same.
talking on the phone like a week or two ago, and we followed each other for a while, but I've never met you in person.
Right. But it just already felt so natural. I'm like, I have been keeping up with you, and I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished. But it really does feel like we've already kind of got this sisterhood or whatever.
So wild. And so I've never heard your full story though,
Not
which
many
I'm really
excited.
Right. This is your first time. This is a first time exclusive.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm really excited to get into it.
I'm excited too. Yeah, I'm trying not to overthink or overwhelm y'all with any details, but yeah, this is the first time I get to actually share. Because I cherry pick what I
know that there's a
Put
lot
out there,
there.
yeah.
I know
there's
that
a lot there. Yeah.
So-
And I never really had a chance to be unseen on social media. So I've always kind of just like guarded that part of me.
Right.
But I'm really excited that I get to kind of lay it out here. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. Where do you come from originally? Where's your
So-
story? Let's talk about some childhood.
Okay, childhood. I was born in Louisiana, Shreveport,
Okay.
on an Air Force base. My mom was the active duty parent. My parents were married for about 7 years, but the marriage itself was very, very abusive. So the first memories I have growing up are intense ones, huge trigger warnings with a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about. My mom coped mostly with alcohol to deal with his abuse, but my father was any kind of abusive, mentally, emotionally, physically. He threatened to kill her. I have vivid memories of him saying, that's why I keep the gun under my side of the bed, kind of crazy things.
Yeah.
So early childhood memories, very vivid, very real. There was sexual abuse. There was just an overwhelming amount of chaos. My mom had taken a TDY or a tour in Germany. So that, or maybe I think it was Italy this time. And so my dad was the one watching my sister and I, and I have an older sister. She's 5 years older than me. We share a mom. And he had started the, sorry, give me a moment. So my dad, sorry.
It's okay. No, you're okay.
My dad is a pedophile and was producing CSA material with my sister and I. And some of my earliest childhood memories are that. So when my mom went TDY, the more vivid memories kind of come up because it was just him and his girlfriend. And after she came back, there was this huge blowout where he had put her head up against the wall because she found out there was a woman here or at the house. And he tried to headbutt her. And when she moved her head, he put his head into the wall and was so angry by that, he did it 3 more times. And so my next memory is my mom pulling out this big poster of Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany, telling my sister and I that we're going to go see the Cinderella Castle. How would you guys like to live here? I'm thinking in the castle, right? I'm like, that's so cool. I'm going to be a princess. Of course. Yeah. So when I was 3, we moved to Germany. And my dad, being the non-military spouse, had to put in for a spousal visa in order to leave the country. And then he was also taking care of the job, selling the car, selling the house. So there was a 6-month gap where lots of peace, lots of joy, lots of happiness happened for all 3 of us. And he joined us in, my pain cycle is between September and February. So he joined us in September 1997 and it started up almost immediately. And I don't know if him being in a new country gave him kind of the freedom to be more open with who he was and what he was doing to us. But my mom caught on about a month in. She said, my girls are acting different. They had a marriage counselor and everything. And she was confiding in her. She says, I think he's doing something to them. And so they had made an appointment for them to have this conversation. He didn't show up. My mom's counselor told her, you need to contact your superiors in the military police and get him out. And so what she did is she said that they had rescheduled the appointment and he showed up at the house and there was her commanding officer and military police there to send him home. So that was right before my 5th birthday. I didn't see him again until I was 17. And good riddance. But he was never charged with anything because my sister and I didn't want to talk. And he had also told my mom, hey, I'll give up my rights as long as you don't pursue these charges. Wow. And she's like, okay, fine. I still kind of wish she would have just been like, sure, give me your rights and then do it anyway. But there was a lot there. So the next couple of years of my life was just kind of processing that as best as I could as a child. They gave me an ADHD diagnosis, put me on meds, all the things. But I still felt very like alone in my family, even though the same things that happened to me happened to my sister. We didn't communicate about it. And then my mom didn't communicate to us about it. So I grow up kind of confused about it. My mom gets out of the military in 2004 and marries a man in North Carolina. They're planning a wedding and my grandparents come out. My grandfather is also a pedophile sexual predator. And I would say that this abuse probably impacted me a little bit more than the abuse from my father. Because I felt very safe with my grandpa. Yeah. My grandpa was the only father figure I had growing up. Wow. And so there were two instances where he had, you know, abused me that trip. And immediately after that, my pre-teen brain went crazy. I mean, y'all remember LimeWire? Can't tell you how many computers I crashed. Exploring on LimeWire, not listening to music, by the way. And it made me feel like I had almost warranted what had happened to me. So I didn't tell anybody. And then my mom and my stepdad divorced and we had to move to Oklahoma. So I'm literally like dinner, holidays, Sundays, everything sitting in front of my grandfather, feeling this feeling of like I caused this to happen to me. So by 13, I'm experimenting with alcohol. That was my first drug of choice. Yeah. And it gave me a sense of freedom from whatever pain and anxiety I was feeling. But I never had a limit. I'm telling you right now, from the first time I drank, I blacked out. Yeah. And I remember also being that friend that like you definitely didn't want your kids to hang out with because I wanted to explore anything to just get out of my head. Right. So I remember 14, trying cocaine for the first time. I was 16 before I started smoking weed regularly, but that just wasn't a thing for me. It was always like alcohol and whatever else we could find. Yeah. Right. It didn't become a real problem for me until my freshman year in high school. And I would say that that was probably the worst. I had a boyfriend who introduced me to pills and hallucinogens. And the idea that you're having some kind of spiritual religious experience during those psychedelics, you're like, wow, maybe I can cure myself this way. Yeah. And it's such a downward spiral from there.
What were you taking, like mushrooms, acid?
Acid. Okay. Specifically. And Molly, ecstasy, things like that. Just kind of the psychedelic realm. Right. And pills were also a huge thing.
Like opiates?
Yeah. The first time I ever was introduced to an opiate, it was an Oxy 80. Taking it
the
back.
Good old days.
And I was going to go get weed from one of my friends. He had pulled out this drawer and had foil and plopped it right there. He said, do you want to try it? I said, what is it? He's like, just try it. He's like, I'll show you. And I was off to the races after that. That was what I wanted all the time because there was this euphoria. It was I was high energy. And then I also kind of felt like nobody could touch me. I would get what was called a perk rage. And it was really bad. But that was kind of my first drug of choice. I never got physically dependent on it though, because at that age I had very limited income and I also had limited resources to get it from because thank God because I do have friends from my past
that's how I got started
way worse because they had different circumstances, had more access to it. So I am very grateful for that. But
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
I told you I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 6. Well, by 19, I figured out that I could go from a pediatric psychiatrist to a geriatric psychiatrist, and I could get just about whatever I wanted. Didn't raise any red flags that I was 19 sitting in a room full of 75-year-olds.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I got really bad on Xanax. There's a good 2 years of my life that I don't really remember. And with that, there was stealing, there was lying, there was a lot of stuff where I was re-victimized and sexually assaulted. Again, blamed myself because of the circumstance.
Right.
And I'm like, well, if I hadn't been doing this, then. And at that point, I hadn't talked to anybody about anything that had happened to me.
Yeah.
So about 21, I start, traveling on my own. I had tried to have a relationship with my biological father. He came back into my life when I was 17, in and out, very conditional. But by 21, I was leaving an abusive relationship and traveling, and I wanted to go and spend time with him and my grandparents. So I remember being like in his home in Alabama, and almost feeling like there were cameras in every room. And I didn't know, I don't think there were.
Yeah.
I can say that now. But the feeling that I had, I would get nauseous changing in the bathroom.
Wow.
Like, didn't want to change in my room or anything. And I'm like, okay, Aaryn, this is a serious issue.
You didn't feel safe.
No.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have anything there except for alcohol. And we would drink at night. And so I was like, this isn't gonna work for me. I had to leave. I went and did a little vacation with my aunt and got drunk and told her everything from my dad to my grandpa to all the other stuff. And I remember her being very, very quiet. She was the first person in my family that I had ever talked to about it.
And this is your mom's sister? Okay.
Yeah. And she didn't necessarily, go ahead.
You're like 21 at the time?
It was 21, yeah. So it was like the first summer that I got to drink with my my aunts and uncles and stuff. So I was staying with her out in Oklahoma and got comfortable enough to tell her what happened, and specifically talked about my grandfather and all these feelings of trying to make it right with them when I didn't deserve what happened to me. And she didn't tell me then how she felt about it, but I found out later that she didn't believe me. And it was years of that. It was years of being talked about behind my back at family events. Aaryn's just unreasonable. She's a liar. She's a drug addict, all these different things. So I withdrew from the family till I was pregnant with my first child. I got pregnant with Sean in a sober living house. Shout out to the Oxford houses.
I fucking go hard.
The
for
Oxford men's houses specifically. Wouldn't have my baby without you. But Oxford House did save my life. I was in a women and children's house, the Taylor House in Oklahoma City, and was able to.
How did you get there?
Yeah,
So
how did you end up? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're right.
yeah.
Like, where do we?
So from 21 to 24, I was at a strip club in Baltimore. Now,
Okay.
this strip club I had started at when I was 17.
Yeah.
And then kind of at like 18, 19 was just all over the place. It's not something that you have to be scheduled at, but it was the Goddess in Baltimore. And it's where one of my most significant traumas happened. I was gang raped there when I was 18. And my drug addiction was really bad there. I was really hard on coke. I had an eating disorder. I was blacked out every night. My apartment was 1 block from the club. And the amount of times I woke up in my bed not knowing how I got there was wild.
Yeah.
Glad I wasn't driving, but still. Yeah. So I'm running the streets of Baltimore doing all of that. And I get to, so at 19, I get into a relationship with a man named Daniel Fry. And that is the relationship that I end up leaving at 21 to go and stay with my dad and my aunt and traveling, things like that. Now, that is the last narcissist that I ever dated. We were in a very unhealthy long-term relationship. I had planned my life with him, but it was fueled by drugs. He controlled all of the drugs. I couldn't have any say-so with it. Even if I was paying for them, he would portion out. Yeah. So I was addicted to him more than anything. In fact, I remember actually getting a bag of my own once and him pulling up to our apartment, and I have the guy in my car and he pulled up next to us. He had this look in his eyes, and he was a surgical tech for an oral surgeon. So he's wearing scrubs and his glasses. He's looking in the car. I'm like, he's going to kill you. And so I literally reversed it. We were living in West Virginia at the time, taking care of his grandpa and it was literally on the Ohio River. So I knew if I could make it to the bridge that he would stop. So I mean, I'm literally telling the guy, and I was like, get your head down. I was like, I know he already seen you, but get your head down. I'm like, he's going to kill you. He's going to kill me. Like, we have to go. That was one of the worst nights of my life. I wrapped my car around railroad tracks, taking a sharp right turn when my GPS was telling me to take like more of like a rounded turn or whatever. And I ended up straddling the tracks.
Oh my God.
So no license, no money, my car's totaled. The guy that's with me is like, what? I just want to go home. And I had to call the police to get help for my car. And the whole time I'm freaking out because we're high. He has drugs on him. I have no license. But it was kind of a God shot because the police officer didn't even ask for our IDs.
No way.
Got us up off the track and then sent me on my way. One of my tires was popped. So, had to change the tire. And then I stayed at homeboy's house for a couple days before I went back. And it wasn't until like another year or so that I finally did leave him, but it was a long process. I did my traveling, went to my dad's, did everything. We got back together briefly.
Those bonds are hard to break.
Really hard to break. I mean, I had moved back to Virginia, which is where I spent most of my childhood. And he was in South Carolina. And my roommate in Virginia, I had texted him one time from her phone. They started Snapchatting, and then she went and spent 2 weeks down at his house. And I didn't know about it until after the fact, till like Christmas that year. But that was when I finally ended things with him. Was when I realized that he had done that. And I told her, I said, hey, he's done this to me 1,000 times. I can't forgive him anymore. I said, I love you. I was like, you didn't know what he was doing. I can forgive you. But when all of that happened, I moved out abruptly from her house, kind of felt really lonely. It was Christmas Day, 2014, because I found out on Christmas Eve that they had been talking. And my mom was in the hospital. I just had a colorectal revision. She had her entire large intestine removed except for the sigmoid and was dealing with cancer. So I was like, I don't know where my life is headed. This is miserable. But again, drugs was my default. I had, stimulants and things like that. Just tried to work as much as I could. But I'm trying to remember exactly how I got back up there. So when I moved back to Virginia and Emily and I went our separate ways, I moved out of that house. My mom was sick. I was looking for another club to go to. I went to DC to Good Guys. They have a no touching policy. So you can't very well
How did you get into dancing to begin with?
So you guys know how trauma responses are. It made me feel more comfortable with what had happened to my body to be promiscuous.
Like you had control.
Girl, my body count was easily 25 by the time I was a sophomore in high school because I would hook up with them once and then move on. It was like you got hypersexual drug in itself. I was very hypersexual. And I had a bad name for myself. I can guarantee you my friends from high school are like, yep, we remember the list, Aaryn. I rated them and everything. Poor guys. Oh my God. But I felt like dancing had put me in a place to have more control over what had happened to me, but it ultimately led me to a place to be re-victimized over and over again. And then back in that mentality of I did this to myself, which is not true. But it felt that way. It really did. So my stage name was Siren. And I very much related to that.
Yeah.
It was an alter ego for me, a safe alter ego. And nobody could hurt her. Even if you were hurting her, you couldn't hurt her.
Right.
But I would do anything for money. And that was the sad thing.
Yeah.
That was the really sad thing. Because I think about those moments and I'm like, you still are, but you were worth so much more than that.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
But that club particularly was like my home club because I was 17 walking into that door.
Right.
And
I didn't even know you could dance at 17.
You can't.
you can't.
Okay, so
That's
they
illegal,
okay.
yeah.
Got it. Heard.
No. Baltimore, Maryland, Charm City.
Yeah.
No, the owner and the manager knew that I was underage. They told me that as long as I told the people that were buying me drinks that I was 21 or older, that it was fine. And I made a bit of money, but it was obvious I was underage.
Yeah.
Like,
You were probably a hot commodity
I
because
will
of that.
literally show you pictures of what I look like. There's no way in hell they didn't know I was a child.
Yeah.
But I thought I was just the hottest thing there ever was because that's what they were telling me. And it kind of opens you up to a lot of different things. I had met a sugar daddy who was from Panama and he ran drugs. Older man, much older man. And he wanted us to just be this like boss man, boss lady thing. And I was all for it as long as I was high.
Yeah.
And getting money. And it started out with him coming to the club to spoil me. And then he would, he'd give me some free stuff. And then it was, well, I'm going to get a room for us after this. And I'll give you an entire blah, blah, blah. So, right.
Yeah.
The incentive to spend time with him was more and more. Well, he had a stroke. And I felt very like maternal or whatever. I don't even know if that was maternal. Maybe it wasn't even that because he was more fatherly. I don't know. I don't want to say it and it like sound weird, but that was really kind of where I was at. I was like, I need to take care of him. So, I was the shoulder that he would lean on when he'd step down from a curb. I would drive him around. He gave me his handicap sticker because I was the one driving him everywhere. And I had gotten to a point in, I think it was 2015, where I went on a week-long vacation with my mom and I had to go back to Frank's house afterwards. And I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't. So I took all of the cash that I had and I put it in money orders so that I wouldn't spend it. I had literally $500 money orders. Called one of my childhood friends in Oklahoma, my cousin's best friend. And they were like, we've got a room for you in Edmond. You just get here. And I was like, okay. So my last night working in Baltimore was actually the night of the Freddie Gray riots. So I got locked into the building and made like $6,000 because they locked us all in from 10 to 3.
Yeah.
That night was crazy. The cops were in their riot gear and me and the girls are on top of the roof being like, don't kill anybody. But I made good money. And I remember I had parked my car with the U-Haul in the alley. And I usually parked on Howard, which is actually I-95. And on Howard, they were flipping cars in front of the police station. So another God shot. I was really grateful that my car wasn't parked there because they would have looted. They would have looted my U-Haul. And that was everything I owned.
Yeah.
And I was leaving the next morning or next day. I woke up at like 5. And I drove for 3 days. And Frank knew that like I was kind of leaving because of that. But I had taken some stuff from him. One of them specifically was his Coke grinder. I didn't take any product. But the grinder itself, I was like, there's at least, at least 3 days worth for my drive. And I'll dry out when I get there.
Yeah.
That never happened. I got there and I started drug seeking almost immediately. Said I was going to change my life, go and get a different job, and went right back to the strip club.
Right.
I was working at Night Trips in Oklahoma City, which is, they have lots of different rules in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So of course I was like, oh, I'm not going to be here long. Just find me a sugar daddy, get out. And the one that I found was married and owned a bar on Meridian. And I started a relationship with him. He put me up as a bartender with no experience and no realization that I was also an alcoholic and an addict, and embarrassed out of myself. And because we had this kind of relationship or whatever, he wouldn't fire me. The general manager wouldn't fire me. No one would fire me, but they did demote me to waiting tables.
So like, we can't have her behind the bar.
Right.
Keep her away from the alcohol.
Keep her away. Yeah.
How did you embarrass yourself though?
So a lot of it would be getting drunk and saying things that I shouldn't. There were these jokes that I would tell that were routinely offensive, and I knew it. And, oh my God. don't even want to repeat it here at all, because it is offensive. But the looks I would get from people would be like,
shocked.
Who let you out in public, woman?
Yeah.
Someone put you in, they're paying you to do this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. But the worst thing is I was actually told not to drink any of the stuff, even if they buy you shots. What you're supposed to do is kind of just like dump it in the sink and then bend down and pretend you're drinking it, whatever, out of a straw. I never did. I was always drinking. And when I start drinking, I start craving other things. That's my gateway, because it's never just alcohol. So I had started doing pills with one of the bartenders, and that was our friendship. We would smoke before work, we'd smoke during work, we'd smoke after work. And I got a second job at Twin Peaks. And so my smoking buddy wasn't there. And one of the girls that I was training with, who was a waitress, was addicted to meth. And I had never, ever been anywhere near it. Didn't even know it was a real thing, that those people even made it outside, and here's this beautiful girl. We're both getting hired on at Twin Peaks. And I'm in her car trying to call my dude for, whatever. And he won't answer. And she's like, just do a hot rail with me real quick.
Oof. For your first time? Oh, bitch. Wow.
I was probably up for at least 3 days that first time. But that night in particular, we went back to her house, had a threesome with her baby daddy. It was this whole thing.
There's a lot of sexual going on with
hours.
Yeah.
I think about it now. I was like, that's probably why I don't want it now. And it created this kind of situation for her where she was very, very paranoid about me. And it was like a low key, she secretly hated me after that. I was like, why would you put me in that position?
Right.
So she would steal from me. She stole clothes. She stole drugs. She stole money. Her baby daddy had tried to hit on me. I was immediately forthcoming with her. That ended our friendship. Started a whole thing with that. But I was living in Mustang at the time and working in Oklahoma City. The friend that I had moved in with when I first got to Oklahoma was in Edmond, and I had moved out. He was my very first boyfriend ever, just to be clear.
Yeah.
So when I say childhood friend, there was always kind of something there, but he is still one of my childhood friends. It's not like that.
Yeah.
But I got jealous when he wouldn't react to me bringing men home or anything like that. And then he started sleeping with other women. So I was like, fuck you. I mean, I tossed his room. There was a whole bunch of stuff. So his best friend, Destry, as I'm moving out, puts a gun to my head, a loaded gun. And I told you I had a perk rage.
Yeah.
I had a knife on my hip, and I flipped this knife out and I looked at him. I said, let's see who's serious. I said, are you going to fucking shoot me? And he immediately was just like, probably not. Yeah. And I chased him. Chased him through the yard with a knife and ended up with felony charges for that.
Why did he pull the gun on you?
Because I tossed John's room.
Okay, got
and
it.
his words specifically were, if you ever do anything like that to him again, I will kill you. And I was like, let's see who's fucking serious.
Yeah.
And so I got felonies for that. Assault with a deadly weapon. And then I had a pill in my purse, and they charged me with contraband in a penal institution because I was being an asshole to them. So from there, I was really just kind of reaching to stay with anyone that I had met. So when I got bonded out, I stayed with the person who bonded me out because it made the most sense.
Right.
And I feel really bad to this day because he was in recovery, hadn't done ice since he was 20 and this man was in his 50s. And here I am sitting in his house getting him high.
Yeah.
And couldn't.
That's how it goes, though. You know,
Right.
like when you're in your sick mind, you're not thinking
Ever.
stuff like that.
Right.
No,
You know,
and
unfortunately.
there's no shame.
But also,
either.
he, as a person in recovery, should have probably been like, hey, this may not be
Yeah.
the best person to be around, you know, in this time.
Probably not. Probably not.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
I had a way of really making these people feel special.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the, you know, kind of a sad thing because they weren't important to me.
Right.
They served
It's
a
the
purpose.
manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say now that I care, you know, about them because of what they did to help me kind of facilitate this forward progression into where I'm at right now.
Right.
But in the time, I didn't at all and would have taken advantage of whatever situation it was. And so he was going out of town. I had a bond hearing. He says, I don't believe that you're going to go because I had been high for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And he says, we're going to the bonds office. I'm revoking your bond right now. I was like, what? Like, what? You know, like, let me call my mom. Let me do something. He's like, no, you're going to jail tonight. Like, you're going to sit there until you go to court on Monday morning. So it was a Thursday night. And Oklahoma County is a 23-1 lockdown. So 23 hours in your cell, 1 hour out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was an interesting experience for me. And went to court, got out, everything. I was like, I don't want to be here anymore in Oklahoma. Didn't have a choice though. So I was put on probation for that. And my drug addiction got really, really bad. It wasn't working. My uncle, who is since passed, was shot in the stomach by my grandfather and was slowly dying due to an abscess on the left side of his body. And he recovered for about a year from that. But my mom was there the first 5 months working remotely. So when I was going through all of this and needed a place to stay, I had like begged to stay with my family, at least over the holidays, but I was using in the house. And so I wasn't welcome there.
Yeah.
I had put in for what's called an interstate compact, which is a transfer of your probation to another state. Because at the time, my mom lived in Arizona and they had some of the greatest treatment centers. She says, you know, you can stay with me if you're clean. So I put in for the interstate compact. It took them 45 days to approve. And that was looking at 45 days of homelessness in the middle of winter in Oklahoma while I was dealing with a drug addiction. So I said, absolutely not. I called Frank.
Yeah.
And Frank got me on the first flight back to Baltimore. And so this trip in particular, and I haven't spoken to him since because of what happened after, but I was actually working one night drug seeking and asking just about anybody that was sitting there at the bar buying me drinks if they knew where I could get ice. I had never met anybody that did it in Baltimore. It was always just blow. But this guy, very attractive black man, told me, yeah, but you got to come with me. I'm like, okay, bet. Took him back to my hotel room. He told me I needed to pack up all of my things. And this is where things get really fuzzy. He was telling me to like open my mouth. I was taking shots of cherry vodka, throwing up. And he told me I wasn't packing fast enough. I said, okay, fine, then I'll just leave all this other stuff and I'll just take this. Now that's kind of the last memory I have before I wake up to him having sex with me. I'm in my sweatshirt and I've got blood all down my arm. I'm in a different hotel room and there's like a lockbox right in front. And so I'm coming to and I'm telling him like, I don't know you. What am I doing here? Like, where's my stuff? My suitcase wasn't in the room. They had taken everything out of my wallet that had my name on it. So when he went into the lockbox to hand me my wallet, there was no ID, not a single debit card, no money from the night before. I said, where's my suitcase? He says, my girl's got it. I'm like, where did the girl come in?
Yeah.
You know? And both of these people, beautiful, attractive individuals, were literally trying to traffic me. And I told them, I screamed. I said, listen, I will go down there to the lobby right now and tell them that you fucking kidnapped me. Give me my stuff. And at that point, he was like, I'm not dealing with this bitch.
Yeah.
I'm not dealing with this bitch.
Yeah.
I had my head completely shaved at the time too. And I
Wow.
looked crazy when I woke up
Wow.
with no makeup on. Friend. He was probably like, oh, we don't
Friend.
want that one anyways. But they asked me.
How old were you at the time?
So this was 2015. I was 22,
Okay.
21, 22. And so I had told them that I wanted to get dropped off at a specific place, but it was nowhere near where I needed to be. I just wanted them to drop me off on Baltimore Street. And I walked from the block all the way down to like the residential area where my friend lived. And his girlfriend was still there at the time. So I had to sleep on my luggage in front of his brown house before I could get in. It was raining. And I just remember being like, this is rock bottom.
Yeah.
This is bad. I had almost nothing that I had came there with too.
Right.
So I stayed at his house for another week before I got on my flight. And then, or no, I didn't even get on the flight. I got a bus back. That's what it was. Got a bus back.
Oh, Greyhound.
And because I could put stuff in my bag and come back. And I make it to Oklahoma. My mom is like, we're going to drive to Arizona. And I'm like, well, I'm not going there sober. There's no way in hell.
Yeah.
So I get what I need to. I'm literally coloring like this for 3 days in the car. And my mom had no idea. No idea that I was high.
She's like, she's an artist.
Look at you go, baby. Just look at you.
None of that makes any sense.
Right? And so when
Beautiful.
I had got to her house and it was this really pretty, just beautiful part. She was living in Scottsdale at the Paradise Valley,
Yeah.
Arizona. It's beautiful. So she had a cute little condo, 1 bedroom. I was either going to sleep on the couch or a cot on the floor. And so while I was using it, I was on the couch, okay, because I wasn't sleeping. And there was, I think it was like the 3rd night I was there, my mom wakes up like moaning my name, like in the scariest way. Like, and I walk in and she's just saying, no. And I'm like, what's going on? Like I had to go and shake her, wake her up.
Yeah.
Wow.
She said that I was sitting on her chest, trying to kill her. And it was like a sleep paralysis
Yeah.
thing.
Holy
so she
shit.
was saying my name because,
Yeah.
and I'm like, back of my head, because I was high, I was like, maybe I brought a demon in the house, crazy shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta stop, right? Well, thankfully, I had kind of ran out of everything. I end up falling asleep the next day on that cot in her room. And on the left side, I had sleep paralysis. On the left side of that bed was this dark figure. And it came up to my throat and snarled, and that's what woke me up. And I was like, I did bring something into this house. Because like that energy comes with the drug. It comes with the territory. It comes with the behavior.
And you're using meth at this time?
I was, yeah.
The devil is in up. I'll tell you, when
100%.
you're in uppers and you get into like not sleeping and all of that otherworldly,
The
like
psychosis.
Tweak is the worst.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. And like I just with my brain chemistry, I'm in psychosis almost immediately day one, girl.
Right.
Like you won't get any sense out of me. So the first treatment center that I went to was in Scottsdale, Arizona, called A Better Tomorrow or A Better Today, I think it was. And it was this mega mansion detox house. After the detox house, you move on to the like actual residential part of the program. But in this detox house, you have 11 dudes and 5 girls, 1 staff member.
Oh my God.
I started a sexual relationship with 2 of those guys. In fact, they hated each other.
Oh
They were
my
mortal
God.
enemies. I just thought it was the funniest thing. And one of them was like very feminine. He crossed his legs when he talked and everything. And we would hook up at the YMCA in the family bathroom. The other guy was this straight San Francisco, like Crip, white boy, like cuz, like everybody's cuz to him. And we would hook up in the master bedroom closet. And the day that I got kicked out of that treatment center was the day that Nathan, the really nice guy, told his counselor what we had been doing because it was affecting him. I felt
Sweet baby.
Right. Like, I feel that now.
Yeah.
Didn't then. I was very resentful towards him. Thought he was just
Yeah.
trying to sabotage what I had going. And didn't consider that it could be affecting his alcoholism or his addiction or what he was there to accomplish.
Right.
So I remember telling him about Mo, like on the day that I'm leaving. They called the police to make sure that I wouldn't go back in and start anything. And I went home feeling like, well, I'm not going to let them have this on me. I'm going to another treatment center.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
So my mom got on the phone, found another treatment center for me. It was an all-women's one. And
Probably a good idea.
it was a great idea in theory.
Oh, in theory, what
In
happens?
theory. Because at that point, I was a very unhealed woman as well.
Yeah.
And being surrounded by women that
And you're
wanted...
like 22? Okay.
being surrounded by women that wanted to have a sisterhood with me was almost intimidating.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would pick them apart and because it was not looking at myself.
Right.
And so I woke up one morning, I called my mom, had a bad conversation with her, went to one of the newer girls. I said, I'm leaving. Do you want to come with me? She said, sure. Poor girl was from Kansas City. We were all the way out in Mesa, Arizona. She had just gotten out of detox too. So it was like I took complete advantage of the fact that, you know, I don't want to be running these streets alone.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, girl, all we got to do is make it to the light rail and we'll find something. She said, okay. So here she and I go hauling suitcases 4 miles to the train. My mom's calling the police saying this is what she's wearing, this is where she's headed. Like, you know, we had cops come up to us while we were at the park trying to talk to somebody and physically like remove us, tell us that we need to see you walking the opposite direction, right? So when that finally did happen, you know, I was like, okay, we made it, found somebody that could get us a hotel room and drugs. I told him at the time Backpage was still a thing. I told him, I said, oh, you know, I'll just post tomorrow. We'll make 3 times this room, blah, blah, blah. And like, I just did his drugs all night. And then I left her there with him.
No.
Left her there with him.
Yeah.
I did go back the next morning with a bus ticket because there was a guy that I, you know, had met on Craigslist. Gets worse. That really wanted to see me clean. And I called him to rescue me that night. But he was like very wealthy and was like, well, what do we need to do for her? I was like, I'm not taking her with me. Like, you know, just complete disregard for human life.
Yeah.
I don't know if she made it on that bus. I don't know if she's even still alive to this day, but I know I put her in a position to fail for sure. And that was my thing. If you were anywhere near me, I was going to drag you down.
Right.
And in fact, not even drag you down, but push your head under the water. So I was still above it. And I carry guilt. I carry a lot of guilt. But I do hope she's okay.
Yeah.
I hope that she's okay. I went to a 3rd treatment center, which is the one that really, really impacted me the most. I was there for 55 days before I got kicked out.
What'd you get kicked out for?
I told one of the girls that, so there was a young woman there who had a ovarian cyst rupture. I had been there longer, so I went with her to the emergency room because I was the accountability. And I took her drug seeking.
Got it.
My first opportunity out of that house, I took her drug seeking. We walked around for hours, missed her call to go back into the emergency room. Like, and the next day I told my counselor about it. She got mad that I told my counselor about it, but I was obviously behaving differently and people could see. And it was the guilt and
Did you end
shame.
up getting high? Oh, so it was the guilt and shame. Okay.
Just the
You
guilt and
guys-
shame. We
right.
didn't get high.
Yeah.
And I think that was like the biggest thing was like, I literally just ran around Prescott, Arizona,
Trying to get drugs.
trying to get drugs. And it's a sober town. If you look at Prescott, Arizona, there's like 150 rehabs in that town.
Wow. Yeah.
The only people that are using drugs are just not to be found.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like they could tell that something was different. Bonnie called me out, which was my therapist at the time. And I told her what happened. She made me kind of admit it to everyone else. And then she pulled the other girl aside privately. And we both received consequences for it. And when she started, you know, running her mouth, I said, you better get them to change your door code, bitch. I said, because I'm coming in. Bonnie's like, now, Aaryn, we actually can't allow that. You said some wild things. We can't allow that. You have to leave.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to leave, but because you were threatening like homicidal threats, we're taking you to the clinic. Like you're going for an evaluation. So I did my eval. They wanted me to be there long term, mostly because of just getting medications right and what I had threatened. But I was able to switch it in about 2 days. I told them that I was AMAing. They gave me 24 hours to write up a like post-treatment plan. And then I was going to have an interview with the psychiatrist. And as long as he felt that my plan was appropriate and that I was of sound mind, they would let me go. So I just played that game and I got out. And I called that guy that I had met on Craigslist at the time. I was telling him he was my boyfriend. And I actually sat for 2 hours outside of that hospital waiting on him to come and get me.
Where did he live? Was he
He was
near,
in
or?
Scottsdale, Arizona as well. So all of this is happening in Arizona where the bulk of like that. But after the treatment center, I moved into a sober living house. I stayed like a week with him in a hotel before I could actually get into a sober living. So I moved my stuff in, everything's going good. I, on like day 70, was like, I made it 70 days clean. I'm gonna go smoke.
I'm cured. Yeah.
And I went and I smoked and failed a drug test with probation. So that was like second or third violation on my interstate compact, because the first 2 rehabs I went to were the first 2 violations for being kicked out.
Right.
So she said, you either need to report to this office in Oklahoma City by this date, or they're going to issue a warrant, a national warrant, like a interstate warrant for you type thing. And I was like, oh, I don't want that. So with the sober living home that I had been in, I was asked to leave because I was smoking. The director actually called Oxford Houses for me. And I had an over-the-phone interview with the Taylor House. And my best friend Amanda was the one who answered. And I'm still very close with the girls that voted me in. And about a week into that stay, I meet my first baby daddy. I get pregnant. Immediately it's, oh, you were pregnant when you got here. And I'm like, that's not possible.
Whoa. Yeah.
And I spent like the first like 5 months of my pregnancy in that house. I had been working at a steakhouse up the street, made some friends, started dating a guy who was selling weed, and started smoking weed during my pregnancy, my late pregnancy with Sean. And I remember walking in to the Taylor house, and the girls, all their faces were like, what is wrong with you? Like, you look different. You look high.
Yeah.
You know, up to that point, I thought I'd, gotten away with it. So I had to leave that night, and I just moved in with him. It's actually where the whole Slitherpuss thing came in. One of the kittens that we had, his roommate's girlfriend named it Slitherpuss, which is kind of where it came from. But yeah, the staying there for a couple months, I felt like everybody's mom, because I was the oldest person. I was pregnant. I was the only one like cooking, cleaning, things like that. They had 3 German Shepherds that I was taking care of. And I was working one night. They had like a bunch of people at the house and had tied Ranger to one of the volleyball posts, and he ended up strangling himself. And I was like, I don't want to even like be here. So my boyfriend and I, we weren't having sex. We weren't talking. We weren't hanging out. I was just smoking his weed, and that was it. And we got to a place where I was like, this isn't working. I have to go. So I moved in with my AA sponsor, and that was actually where I brought my son home to. I was clean in her house, and after he was born, she started traveling to Tulsa, find out she's not clean. So I leave, but I got my first apartment with my baby and was there for 11 months. And that was hard for me. This is the part of my story that like I have a hard time sharing with people I don't know.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
I had started using pills again, and I was breastfeeding. And I just remember feeling like such guilt over it and not being able to really like control that urge.
Right.
And when my lease was up, I moved back in with my mom in Arizona, and I took Sean with me. At the time, there was kind of an indication that he was different. I could tell by like 10 months, you know, because he would stem, he had his happy hands.
Yeah.
But you could really tell once we got to Arizona because there was a lot of regression. He wouldn't eat certain things like he used to. And yeah, just a lot of stuff. So I considered, you know, having him evaluated then for autism. But my next door neighbor was an ABA therapist for children with autism and told me he's fine. He doesn't have autism. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, whatever. It's always in the back of my mind. I started going to school for massage therapy out there and had chosen that I wanted to do like massage for Sean to kind of like help him come out of certain things. He was toe walking at the time.
Oh.
And so I got really good at massaging his legs, his Achilles, his feet. Yeah. He's still a toe walker, but we've got him in braces and flat bottom shoes. But that's where the passion for body work started was my son's nonverbal. Yeah. Well, he's not nonverbal anymore, praise God. But he couldn't tell me if he was hurting.
Right.
And so I just wanted to like soothe him.
Yeah.
We leave Arizona for Florida abruptly. Now, my school had closed in the middle of my program, which caused a little bit of a behavior thing for me, where I was like, well, maybe this isn't it. And I was hypersexualizing myself again. I had gone from being super Christian, thinking that would make me feel better about myself, to then, oh, I'm just going to be the sexy siren again. So I had grown my hair out. It was like untreated. I bleached it blonde, and here we go, siren all over again. I started posting on Instagram, had a couple, you know, viral photos or whatever that picked up on the first account. And I was like, I could really do this. But my mom, abruptly, she was like, hey, I got a job in Florida making 3 times as much. What are you going to do? And I was like, I'm coming with you. My school just closed down. I don't have a license. I don't have a job. I've got a 2-year-old with special needs. Like, I'm coming with you.
What year is this?
This is 2019.
Okay.
So I'm 25 at the time. 24, 25. 24, about to be 25.
Okay.
So we move here. We're not here. We moved to Florida.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my medical card or anything like that. I started drinking again. It was awful. I mean, like from the time I would wake up, and it was wine spritzers. So I was like a very aggressive drunk.
Yeah.
One of those nights I wandered to a bar, and should have been like the indicator to stay home when I found out I left my wallet at home. But I took an Uber back, went and got that wallet and came right back. And it's a little hole in the wall. I stopped really like remembering what was going on in the middle of a dart game. and then come to Army kicking the bathroom door out off its hinges. Yeah. Don't know why I did that. I don't know. I think maybe I thought I was being like barricaded in or locked in because I couldn't get the door open, but I straight up just
fucking booted it.
And so they kicked me out. And I'm angry. I'm at the door. I'm like, I just want to pay. You know, I just want to pay, blah, blah, blah. They had already called the police, though. So the guy that I was playing darts with, we had started walking. I was a half a mile from my house. I was walking in the other direction. They arrested me at these apartments. And like to this day, I still don't know what happened between being locked out of the bar and getting picked up by the police.
Right.
But I had assaulted an officer when they came up on me. Like they asked me my name. I balled my fists up and went at her almost immediately.
Wow.
And they hog-tied my legs, ran the leash through the door, all the things, man. I was in the chair with the spit bag on. Oh, it was bad. But I got 2 felony charges and a misdemeanor for that. Assault on a Leo and resisting with violence. And
So
then
this is your
public
third
intox.
felony now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first 2 felonies that I got were in Oklahoma with
Right.
that incident. And I was able to actually get that record sealed immediately.
Right. Okay.
But I had a deferred sentence. So they would have fallen off my record had I behaved
State-
for
state.
7 years and did not. Yeah, I ended up catching more felonies, so they're all there. But that put me on probation.
Okay.
I have the CRA and everything for those charges sealed specifically because of the context of the arrest and the person that I was then and the way I was treating the officers. I would never have anything good in my life if anybody ever saw that. So, but I thought it was more of like a game, probation, instead of a blessing. And I know now it's a complete blessing to be on probation and to be free. But in 2022, or actually 2021, I had gone to an influencer wedding out of state, posted all about it all over social media.
Has you already had a following at this point?
Yeah. So if we want to get to the following part.
Yeah.
Okay.
When did that happen?
Well, I want to hear about all the wedding because I don't know the
Yeah.
details.
Yeah, I'll get
but
there. So end of 2019, I decide to hop on TikTok.
Okay.
I didn't have anything on my account other than a profile picture and my name. In fact, the first TikTok I ever posted was the Cinderella transition, the bippity boppity.
Oh yeah.
And
During
it was-
quarantine.
Yes, but it wasn't during quarantine. It was
Okay, it was
supposed to be
before.
Right before.
Yeah, so like December 2019.
Okay.
And I got the video was taken down immediately. So I was like, well, I'm not posting on this app if I can't even do a transition. I think I was in like a t-shirt and like my underwear.
Yeah.
And then I had did the transition or whatever. I was like, this is stupid, whatever. So I'm just scrolling. There's a guy on my For You page. I'm like, oh, he's handsome. And he's talking about these wild dating stories and he's just going viral for him. And obviously like you like one video, they come
Right.
back up. Okay. So by like the 3rd video, I followed him. I thought it was funny. I went through like some of his videos, didn't realize that with his account being almost like 10K at the time that he would even see me. Well, he follows me back. So we corresponded for about a month. We're in touch on every single social media app, Snapchat, everything. And then I decide to go meet him. And I have a vomiting episode. Oh yeah, it was
Love
lovely.
that.
He's on an ankle monitor at the time though, so we only had like an hour at the restaurant before I had to go back to his house and I was
Yeah.
going to stay the night there.
Yeah.
So I'm vomiting out of the side of his car and he's making a TikTok, bro. Literally making a TikTok.
Wow.
And I'm like, do not add me to one of your dating stories, but he did. So
I mean, that's a good story.
it is. It's really funny. He's such a douche. But we get back to his house. I'm not feeling any better. It's in like Fort Myers, so they don't actually have
Okay.
hot water unless they turn their hot water on because you're in Florida. You don't really need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I need hot water when I'm sick like that. And I feel so bad because his mom literally had to like open a panel in their floor to turn it
Turn
on.
them.
Oh my god.
And it wasn't helping. I ended up in the emergency room that night and came back like midnight or so. He and I hooked up a couple times and then went to sleep. He was drunk. I was sick. I was like, whatever. But that was the night I got pregnant. After that, I don't know if he was just like woke up next to me and was like, but his energy changed almost immediately.
Wow.
And we went from talking every day all day to him telling me that I'm annoying and just like bothering him. So I posted this TikTok of me crying into my chicken nuggets, right? I was like, men suck, but chicken nuggets are forever, right? And it was slowly picking up. About 2 days later, I take my pregnancy test and I was Snapchatting my best friend, and I found out on that Snapchat. So I send it to Chaz. He tells me I'm a liar. I'm like, fine, I'm posting it on TikTok. Freaking like 30 million views.
Holy
Blows
shit.
up.
Overnight. 110,000 followers overnight. I'm like, what?
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
And so I didn't really know what to do or say. And then it was a really rough pregnancy. So I had like followed up with a video saying, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do with this pregnancy.
Yeah.
Might adopt, might terminate. I don't know.
Yeah.
At the time I was asking him for help with money to terminate, because I couldn't, the only money I was getting was from my biological father. And that was $500 a month. And if I had turned and said, hey, I accidentally got pregnant again, I need money to terminate, he would have cussed me out up and down. Super conservative dude.
Yeah.
But he said, and I quote, how do I know you're not just going to take the money and have my baby anyway? I'm like, yeah, because your DNA is just so high value. Like, man, you just get this TikToker's baby and $400 and off to the races, right?
Jesus.
But I'm very grateful that didn't happen, because I wouldn't have my son. And he is the most beautiful blessing.
He's a
and
sweet baby.
he is such a sweet baby.
so
He is every good part of me outside my body, and even better. Like, he's just got a heart of gold.
And this is like 2020. Okay.
So 2020, January, end of January, I got pregnant on the 26th. Well, just like that. I find out on the, like, it was 10 days later. So I think it was the 4th or 5th of February that I found out. And so I think that was kind of what made the video go super viral, because I said, I'm 10 days away from my missed period, you know, and I'm peeing like a racehorse, and then the Jeopardy theme song, whatever, just timing everything. So yeah, I didn't have a chance to really be unseen. And I attempted to post during my pregnancy, but I had something called hyperemesis gravidarum, which left me bedbound and vomiting for up to 50 times a day. I spent my first trimester in the hospital. I had 3 different long-term stays that were about 21 days each. And they pretty much just medicate you. They don't give you any kind of solution. They're like,
Sorry.
it's gonna be like this till your baby's born. I'm like,
God.
Great.
Yeah.
So I was given permission by my OBGYN to use my medical marijuana because the Zofran was not working for me, and the Reglan was something I would have to take by mouth. Couldn't. So I medicated with RSO. Edibles seemed to be the only way that I could actually sleep. And so I did that. And then about 37 weeks, at 30 weeks, I find out that Chaz got another girl pregnant 5 weeks after me.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about her. I had an indicator that somebody else was pregnant, but I didn't know. Chaz had messaged me when he got into a new relationship. I was about 4 months pregnant, and he accused me of messaging her. But he accused me of it by sending me a screenshot of the message that his girlfriend got, and completely blocked it out, where it said he had another girl pregnant. And it just says, Chaz has. And I said, what do you have? He says, HIV. I was like, you're not funny. I was like, how are you going to accuse me of being that girl when I don't even know what's behind the black bar?
Right.
So whatever. I'm about 30 weeks pregnant, and I get a message or a comment actually on one of my videos from his sister saying, that's my nephew in there, and I sent you a couple messages. And I'm like, weird. okay. But we got really close really fast. And it was kind of a caveat to having him in my son's life. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. But she tells me that there's another girl who's pregnant, and everything kind of just starts to add up. I was like, okay. Because about 5 weeks after I had found out I was pregnant, I'm getting messages from him that actually sounded like two different people. And it come to find out that was the night that she got pregnant.
Okay.
So she and I were friends at first. I really wanted to love her daughter. She actually was the first original snarker who created my original snark page.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Keep going. I'm gonna use the restroom.
So after all of that transpires, I go in, I get my membrane stripped at 37 weeks. I have my son early. She has her daughter the next month. I had sent pictures of my son to Chaz, just kind of like hoping he would think my brand new newborn baby was as cute as I did.
Yeah.
He was literally sending pictures of my child to his mom being like, there's no way this is my kid. Look at how ugly it is.
Oh, God.
But they're just wrinkly and brand new.
Yeah, they just look like little old Benjamin Button.
But my son was also really skinny when he was born too. He was 6 pounds, and
You were puking the whole freaking time.
we literally left the hospital at like he was 5 pounds 4 ounces,
And now he's a chunk.
Yeah, his first pediatrician appointment, 10 pounds 8 ounces.
Oh, yeah.
Doubled in size. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, and he's solid now. Him's a chunky boy. But I would send pictures, I'd send videos, just kind of hoping, and it was that first postpartum,
Right.
But eventually I did get over it. I did. And it wasn't until I started kind of blowing up online that either one of them wanted anything to do with me. So summer 2021, I hit 1 million followers in 1 month.
Yeah.
Sharing this story about how Chaz has 2 brand new babies and how we were kind of getting along. Now, I'm somebody like, I never felt possessive over him. He was not ever my boyfriend. He was not ever my man. So there was no animosity from me towards her.
Oh, no, are
in that
they
regard.
together? They're not together either.
He will never have anything to do with that child. And I feel truly
With the other child.
with the other child, and I'll get there. He's diagnosed narcissist in PD, and I didn't know this until one of his exes told me, like, hey, he was diagnosed in our relationship.
Yeah.
But it makes more sense now, because he told me, he's like, well, I didn't want the girl, I only ever wanted the boy. Didn't even want to know what her name was. I had to tell him what her name was.
Oh, man.
So
I feel like a father needs a daughter.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, he is not someone that I think is compatible with anyone, not even partners. I would urge anybody who is listening to this to stay as far away from Chaz tyranny as possible. But that's just because of the type of person he is and how he prioritizes things and himself above other things.
Yeah.
But
okay, so you really blow up talking about this.
yeah,
drama.
so I posted a video outside of his work. We had obviously planned this. TikTok did not, but I was like, so I have a 10-month-old, he was 10 months old at the time. And I just pulled up outside of my baby daddy's job, and he's never met him before. So let's see how this goes. And that kind of was like an intro to the whole thing after that.
Okay.
So we went to a children's museum. We went to lunch, went to a children's museum. I've got videos of him feeding him and everything. But the children's museum, he was excited. He was taking pictures of him. He had him on his lap, and he genuinely was really excited. It seemed like it to me. And he was sending pictures to his mom. And I had made several draft videos of them playing together. And then I asked him which ones he wanted, he was okay with me posting. Yeah. And the one that he chose specifically was the one where he was looking at the pictures he sent to his mom. Yeah. And when I posted that,
people,
they lit into him. They said, first time meeting his son and he can't even put his phone down. So I'm up in those comments. He's up in those comments.
Trying to defend him, like, no.
Yeah. And I was like, this is actually the one that he chose. He was sending pictures of his son to his mom. Like, it wasn't like that. But he hadn't been active on his account in a long time. He was the kind of poster that if every video didn't go viral, it wasn't worth it to him, right? So, excuse me. He was responding to people in a way that got his account flagged and ultimately banned. Like they went and mass reported him and he was gone.
He was just like talking shit to people or like
Awful
yeah.
awful things. I mean, like not even just trying to defend himself or a reason. He's
was
calling
just being
people ugly and
Yeah.
fat and, you know, just being petty. And it wasn't any, I mean, he was in those comments. I was telling him like, get out of it, you know? We had a live stream and everything where the three of us were, well, let me get there. So the initial day was supposed to be just Jackson and Chaz, but Ashley knew I was going out there. She says, I know that Chaz is probably not going to want to see me or Margot, but do you think that I could see you and Jax? I said, yeah, of course. But I'm sitting in the car responding and I'm like, hey, Mister.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
I'm like, Ashley wants to meet Jackson and I want to meet her daughter. Are you interested in being there for that? He's like, what's her name? I said, her name is Margot. He's like, she named her after my fucking grandma. I'm like, yeah. Like, this girl actually liked you, homie.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, fine, whatever. So I tell her, I'm like, let's just go to Target. We'll get something to eat and we'll, you know, shop around. So I got the kids matching 4th of July outfits and everything. And when we're on our way out, making a couple of videos, and one of them was, that one's mine, that one's hers, they're both his. And everybody was like, what kind of throuple situation? Like, who cheated?
What?
And the comments of who cheated sparked a conversation for her on her profile where she had about 50,000 followers. So she had a little bit of a following where she started talking about how I was the other woman.
Oh.
And I'm like, I text her, I said, hey, I appreciate you sharing all of this, but that is not what happened on my end. And I would actually appreciate it if you took it down and maybe restated what you said, because you guys were not in a relationship when I was with him.
Right.
And it turned into an argument of tit for tat and who was there.
Oh no.
While, you know, I'm Snapchatting him and she's in his bed. And I'm like, okay. So my brain goes back to that night where I'm getting text messages that sound like Chaz and one that sounds like just some irrational person that I've never met before.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh. So I also found out that it was her cousin's account that she used to message his girlfriend. So there's these red flags.
Yeah.
Consistent red flags with her. So we get into that argument. It turns into this whole mess. He pretty much tells me that he doesn't want to deal with her at all. And so like, it's fine. Like, let her just talk her shit. I'll just be a father to Jax. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Well, his birthday's coming up. I had planned a birthday party on a Saturday, but he was working on a Saturday and we're about 2 hours away from each other. He did not have a license at the time. So I was going to Uber him. I was going to pay for him to Uber 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then I planned the party on a Wednesday because he was off on Wednesday and then that next day, Thursday. So he would get to see him. The mistake that I made was entertaining him flirting with me, because ultimately he had met his now ex-girlfriend in between that time. And I guess whatever guilt he felt or whatever he felt about flirting with me, like he was like, well, I can't let her see that I'm in a relationship. So he blocked me from his Instagram story. And at the time I had 2 Instagrams because one of them was my main account. One of them I was using to promo.
So
I didn't realize
see his story.
I didn't realize I was on the backup account and tapping through. And I'm like, oh, he's eating sushi. I said, oh,
who's that?
I was like, oh, she's pretty. And then I'm like, why can't I see this on your main account?
Oh no.
Yeah.
So I screenshotted it and I said, listen, I was like, I am not somebody that would ever be jealous about something like this, but it hurts my feelings. You're supposed to be here in 2 days for my son's birthday and you just blocked me from your Instagram story.
Right.
And he just lit into me about how like, I don't deserve to know anything about his business or what he's doing. In fact, it's like a gift to me that he allows that, you know? So I was like, okay, we get into an argument and I tell him, I said, you know, at this point, door's closed. If my son wants to reopen it for you, that's fine. I'm like, but you miss his first birthday and you do it because you think I'm going to feel some type of way about you getting a girlfriend. Like, no.
Right.
So that was like the last real time that we actually like spoke to each other. And excuse me.
Nice. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
There it is.
And when was that? That was like 4 years ago?
Almost 4 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
So that was late 2021.
Got it.
August 2021.
Yeah.
And October is my son's birthday. So everything happened in August when they met.
And at this time, what about drinking and using? Were you like sober?
I wasn't drinking at all. No.
Yeah.
Alcohol at that point, after having the pregnancy that I had with Jackson, alcohol was very much like a scary thing for me because I didn't want to throw up. I was just smoking weed. So after, let's say, 2019, with the incident where I got my felonies, I was almost entirely abstinent from everything.
Yeah.
Except for smoking.
Yeah.
Weed's part of my recovery.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of my recovery. So no, I wasn't drinking. I was of sound mind. I was kind of using social media and money as that drug of choice because...
Are you doing... When did you start OF?
2021. As soon as I hit $1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, I had it in my account or had made the account, didn't post the link for like the first 4 months. And then that 5th month I went viral. I posted the link. I made $15,000 in a weekend.
Wow.
Which was a drug to me.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I was like, I can do anything.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what that was going to turn into. Now I had a history of sex work. And so I was like, this isn't going to traumatize me. This is going to empower me. And that's how I kind of sold it to other people for a long time, that this has made me feel so much better. I don't have to, no one has to touch me in order for me to like
You're
get
like
this
in
money.
control of it. Yeah.
But it put me in a place where all my other dreams were paused. Now body work is a huge passion of mine. I'm in school right now for paramedical aesthetics. The skin and the body are my passion. And that put it on hold because I was like, well, if I can make money just having fun and being pretty, then why would I need a career? You know? But it wore heavy on my soul being a victim of CSA and CSAM and all of the trauma that happened in the club.
Right.
And then not having drugs to medicate with. So yeah, 2021 I
go to the wedding.
I had been making buku bucks, hit 1 million followers in a month. I went from 400,000 to 1 million in 1 month. It wouldn't even be able to explain it, but I got invited to the Woods' wedding, and unfortunately for me, that was my first weekend without my kids in a very long time. And there was cocaine being passed around that place like it was a party favor, especially the night of the wedding. So I'm high all night, actually for the whole weekend. In fact, I had it in my bra at the Augusta airport on my way home. Okay. And I made a lot of mistakes that weekend, a lot. Like to this day, it's really difficult for me to talk about because I regret so much.
And a lot of this was online? You were like posting
The
it?
whole
it
thing
like
was
a-
on. I don't even
and then I was
remember.
also a live streamer too. So there
Okay.
was like very
So you're
little.
streaming while you're there and...
I wasn't streaming while I was there. The event that we were at had little to no coverage, and I think a lot of that had to do with so that they could kind of monopolize the stream because they had a stream people were paying for to watch.
Okay, got it.
So I'm making TikToks, I'm dancing, you know, I'm getting to know all these other ladies that I've been
Gabby's
connected
there,
with.
Brittany's there.
Got it.
Yes.
A lot of the people that
And
we've
this,
already
so this
had
was
on
an
the
influencer.
It was a
wedding,
full
mom
literally.
talk. What was it?
It was a mom talk
Queen
thing.
team. What is it? What
Oh
is
yeah,
it?
the Queen team.
Was that what it was? Like
Yeah,
that was
that's
kinda
what it
like
was
that
called.
Kind of shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Whose wedding is it?
Kelsey and Curtis Woods.
I don't know.
I want to hug you. Just keep that way. No, they were really big. I mean, I guess they're still kind of relevant, but really big on mom talk.
Yeah.
And when ketones were a huge thing on TikTok, that was kind of how I got in. So I was a downline from Curtis and Michael. So I was a part of the ketone family that kind of gave me my in as well.
Yeah, got it.
And I we're all on the same team for Prove It.
And you guys were selling ketones.
Yeah, that was a part of my hustle.
Okay.
The ketones and the OF. I mean, I made easily 5 figures a month on both of those.
Yeah.
So definitely I wanted to be there, meet my team, meet all the other people and stuff. And I had a good time. Yeah. But there was a lot of stuff that happened that just was. So we're at the wedding. Drugs are being passed around. There's a charity event that first night. And one of the girls that I had came with decided she was going to be bold and bid $1,000 on Paz Packs, which is just part of the charity. And I didn't realize she was freaking out, right? My friend had to tap me and be like, Kat doesn't have $1,000. Excuse me, Cot doesn't have $1,000.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
Why would she do that?
That's what I said. And apparently she was looking like at our table to see if anybody would stand up. But
was she hoping that someone was going to... so she was trying to make a
But
move.
we were all sponsored by Passpacks, so I didn't know why she was bidding on it anyways.
Yeah.
But all the other stuff, I was like, well, I didn't want any of this. One of them was Kelsey's shoes. One of them was a date with Michael, who was one of my best friends. I was like, I didn't really want to bid on anything, but I had set aside in my mind, didn't tell them this, $1,000 to bid. So when I heard that my friend had done that, I mean, quite literally, I'm booking it to the parking lot, just holding my titties, running. She's crying. She's like, I don't have the money for that. I was like, you're fine. Okay. And I even told her, I said, don't tell anybody about this. I mean, it ended up coming up later when it ended up coming up later when it benefited her.
Yeah.
But I told her, I said, please don't tell anybody about this, because I had just come into new money and I didn't want to get into a habit of giving people money, because that was a huge problem for me.
Yeah.
People pleasing, just wanting to keep you as close as possible. So I do that. We end up taking her back to the Airbnb. I go to the after party, which was at one of the nightclubs there in Augusta. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It's like Garden something, Garden City. I don't know. But there's an entire roped off VIP section. I bought bottles the second night because I really wanted to get drunk. I was drinking at this event and not getting drunk because I was also playing with my nose. But we were all very messed up there at that after party, and there was a lot of stuff that happened. I mean, when I tell you I'd never seen so many married men without their wives acting like they were frat boys, one officer in particular, and I was just like, this is why I'll never be with anyone. This is why I'll never be married and never anything like that. But it was fun. We partied all night. I hooked up with 4 guys that weekend.
And you ended up getting into a fight with someone, right?
That was the first night.
Was that? Okay, that was the first night. Who was it?
So, she's not an influencer. She was somebody that followed Kylie Strickland from her meet and greet somewhere else in Georgia down to the hotel where we were at. So we were at a bar, a sports bar that had a upper deck, and all of us were on the top level and drinking, having a good time. I had my friend there with me who is a gay porn star, and gorgeous man, absolutely gorgeous, but he's bisexual. Okay. So Kylie comes in, she's got her groupies that came with her from the other place, but these girls are already messed up, and one of them was like, oh my God, you're so pretty. We end up making out there at the bar, right? This bitch is 5'9". Okay. And I'm like, come back to my room with us. We'll just have a threesome. We'll make some content, whatever. Right. And she finds out that Aspen is a gay porn star and starts using the F slur. And called whoever it was on her phone. Whoa. He's using the F slur. I told her, I said, get out of my room. She says, I'm not going anywhere. I says, you get out of my room or I'll make you. And so at the time I had like these extendo nails I had just gotten done, right?
I remember you with the long nails. Yeah.
So I hit her several times, got her on the ground, and then grabbed the back of her hair like this and literally squeezed so hard that I still vividly remember the sound of my nail beds popping.
Oh.
And I drug her from my room to the elevator, pushed the door. I said,
my God.
bye. And ended up getting kicked out of the hotel that night.
Yeah.
But she went to jail. So
She went to jail.
she went to jail.
Because she was in your room. You were defending
I actually
yourself.
don't know what happened after the fact. I think maybe, but she could have also gotten belligerent with the staff.
Okay.
But after I pushed that elevator
that
button,
was
I was
it.
done.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Okay.
I've got some crazy Snapchats from that night where I'm wasted and I'm like showing my friends my hands. I got blood
Broken.
written
Oh
on
my
it,
God.
and I didn't
dude.
feel it till the
Ah.
next day.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
fuck.
yeah, I show up at the wedding. My fingers are taped. Everybody had obviously heard about it the night before. And then also like there were videos being posted. And a lot of people thought that I had fought with another influencer whose name is Mallory. And she's honestly so sweet. She does a bunch of New York City content now.
Okay.
But it was not that Mallory. It was the random girl that came with Kylie. But to this day, people still think that I fought that Mallory.
I think I know the Mallory you're talking about.
Yeah.
She's a sweet baby.
She is a sweet baby. Everybody that I met there that weekend was lovely. Even Kelsey herself.
Yeah.
You know?
And then so you came after that though. After that.
So that was the night before the wedding.
Yeah.
The next day was the wedding. That was when the charity event, all the blow being passed around, everything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I ended up hooking up with the guy that was, passing the drugs out.
Yeah.
And it was really sad because I had a huge crush on Michael Abentonio. And he was not the type of person to like stop you from doing anything, but I knew I hurt his feelings because we were kind of talking before that, and I hooked up with Joey in front of him.
Oh.
I'm talking bent.
Oh.
Yeah. And after that, he let me cuddle him in bed, and he's like, "Are you okay? Did you want to do that?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." He's like, "Okay." Just kind of gently like making sure that the drugs didn't, because he wasn't doing any.
Yeah.
And it was like he immediately saw like how bad I was, at that time. I didn't know. But it was my first night out without my
Right.
choned, which showed me I had made no progress.
Right.
My kids were keeping me sober. I wasn't keeping me sober.
Yeah.
So once that trip ended, came home, I had still had it in my system and everything like that. And that night, the first night, I'm dealing with all of the drama from Kylie's friend saying that the reason we got into a fight was because she didn't want to have sex with us, which I get very, very aggressive over because
Interesting.
I'm a victim of sexual
Right.
assault. I would never. I would kill someone if I witnessed something like that happening, is how intense it is for me. So I was very angry, and my oldest son was falling asleep across my lap. My mom had been drinking and had my youngest son in her arms. And we start this discourse, this arguing about the fact that I'm just letting Sean fall asleep and I'm not rocking him, or, which my oldest son, he'll fall asleep in my armpit. Like, he don't care as long as I'm there.
Yeah.
And so once he fell asleep and I put him in his room, she and I had kind of a confrontation in the doorway where I popped her with my chest. She tells me she's going to call the police. So I run out. No phone, no shoes. Book it. I do my little lap around the block. I come back. There's a bar on the door and she's not letting me in. And I told her, I'm like, just let me in. I'm just going to get the boys. We're going to go to a hotel tonight. Because I was making plenty of money. It didn't matter. She says, no, I'm not letting you leave with them. So I picked up the sign next to the door, and we had this long window pane, and it was on the side where I could. So I popped the window out, shattered it, glass all inside. I removed the latch. I come in. I said, I'm getting the boys. We're leaving. She goes, I'm calling the police. So police come. I go to jail for she said that I had assaulted her, but it was a chest bump that time.
Yeah.
And then she didn't press any charges, so I was able to come home, but it was a 10-day hold.
Yeah.
So I'm there for 10 days. I remember making all of these phone calls to, the few influencer friends that I had, and I was like, how bad is it? They're like, it's pretty bad. They know you're in jail. they know why, you know, and like it looks bad because they're saying you hit your mom. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to come out and I'm going to talk about it all. Well, I had tested positive when I got in there, so obviously CPS gets involved, DCF and everything.
Oh, really?
They open a case, they interview you.
Yeah. And your mom said something too?
No, my mom didn't say anything.
Okay.
It's mandated by the state of Florida. If there are children present during any kind of domestic situation, DCF is immediately involved.
Right.
And then I came in there with a hot test, so immediate open investigation. So I had a case that was open with them for 58 days. They closed it on the 58th day. But it started this horrible domino effect with probation to where I went from being on just regular unsupervised to
formal
drug, what was it? Drug offender.
court?
Drug
Okay.
offender. It wasn't drug court, but it was drug offender.
Okay. Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
And the probation officer I got did not like the fact that social media was my income. I had to go all through.
I remember those videos.
Had to go through all
going in
these
there
hoops.
with like your outfits and whatever.
My
They gave her a really hard
outfits,
time. She would go in
everything.
there with her titties, maybe cleavaging a little bit.
Honestly,
is
no,
that
it was
is
more
that-
my
are you not
legs that they had a
supposed-
problem with.
Yeah.
And
what,
I'm-
you're not supposed to or something? What,
So
They
when
just didn't like
you're
her.
reporting to their office, they have sex offenders in there, and by law, like sex offenders can't even have certain images on their phones, let alone be exposed to things. So you can't have
so
your
they
kids
were-
there, and you can't dress a certain way. That's what they told me. But I'd go
for
in there
other people that
I-
are in trouble for other things.
for other things, right?
Right.
But they said that was just standard. No kids, no provocative
Yeah.
outfits. So I would wear something like this and get
Right.
in trouble. Okay.
Yeah.
I would even like try to modify it. Like I bought clothes. I have an entire Amazon haul for clothes that I bought, man. And the jeans, the showering in the jeans video.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get those jeans on so I could wear jeans to probation. But the drug offender PO was very hard on me when it came to my income. So I got an LLC. And when I got the EIN number, she's like still unhappy about the fact that I'm not going to join her job program and fill out 10 applications a week and go on 3 interviews a week or anything like that. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I told her, I said respectfully, I was like, I make more money than you do. I was like, I'm telling you
Yeah,
that
what?
I'm, you know, compliant. So we kept getting into arguments, and I decided on like the third
That's
one
so
that I was going to
interesting.
record
What?
it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually illegal in the state of Florida to record someone without their consent.
For sure. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
illegal, like, I think everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of states that
No,
aren't.
I think Texas, you don't
it was
have
like
to have
Georgia's
permission.
a one-party consent.
Yeah.
But Florida's a 2-party consent. I didn't know that, but I recorded it because I needed to know where we were losing each other, because I was answering all her questions. I was respectful. I was doing everything I needed to do, checked all her boxes. She would still argue with me, and I'd leave there in tears practically, scared I'm going to go to jail.
Yeah.
So I'm recording, and there's a guy that comes in, pokes his head in, and he goes, my wife worked from the day our daughter was 1 year old until she was 21. Get a real job. And I stood up. I said, are you serious? I was like, I have a real job. And again, I reiterated, I make more money than you do.
Yeah.
So at this point, there's a whole group of them outside of her office. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this. I just got all of that on recording. And she goes, you do not have my permission to record. Turn it off now. And I didn't turn it off. I put it in my bag. So you can still hear them barking at me on the way out.
Yeah.
But I'm leaving, and one of the ladies says, and make sure next time you're here, you're dressed appropriately in my office, like a completely different PO. I was like, I'm not going back. They filed a warrant for absconding, and Christmas morning showed up at my house, banging on the door at 8 a.m. I looked at my mom. I was like, we're not answering that. So we didn't. They came back 2 days later at like 10 o'clock at night, shining flashlights on my baby in his crib, banging on my window. There was like one panel missing on my blinds, and they're like, we can see you, Miss Joseph, come out. like your house is surrounded. And they literally like not only was my house surrounded, but all the way down the street they had cops and people in civilian clothing and everything like that. So they were expecting me to run, but my mom crawled on all fours from the living room into my bedroom. We had vaulted ceilings at the time and there was like a nightlight on. She didn't want them to see her moving up there. But we were terrified, both of us. I texted my attorney, the one that I had for this case, and I was like, the cops are here. Can you look and see if there's a warrant? And he's like, they can't come in. And there's a shift exchange in 45 minutes. They will leave. And sure enough, they did. But I had to have him schedule an appointment for me to like see the judge to see what it was about. And it was obviously about the drug offender probation. So the same day this court date happens was also the same day for my consult for my breast augmentation. But I got put on an ankle monitor. And so I'm out in Sarasota. He's like, you need to be here by 4 to get your equipment. I was like, oh my God. So go there, come back. I had my consult, have a freaking box on my ankle now. Have to explain to them, you know, that I have to have it on during surgery. Like, is that okay? And it was probably so weird for them. But I was able to like schedule out time with community control to actually have the surgery and things like that and recover. But when that happened, it was like they didn't take anything seriously for me. I would tell them I have a doctor's appointment. They'd find out that I'd go get lip injections or a boob job. And they're like, she's playing with us. So there was a list of evaluations that I had to have completed before my midway point with the community control. I was on it for 6 months. Or I was scheduled to be on it for 6 months. And when that midway point happened, I was like, fine, you know, like I'll make the appointments. I ended up missing them though, because I'd be up all night making content. I'd sleep through whatever alarms I had and then I wouldn't go. So she's urging me like, hey, you've got to get this done or you're going to get violated on it. And I'm like, okay, well, that day I go in to fill out my schedule and the director pulled me aside, had gloves on, pat me down outside the UA room. I'm thinking I'm going to go in UA. And she's like, no, step back out here. She goes, I thought I told you needed to be dressed appropriately when you come here. No, this time I have a zip up hoodie and I've got shorts that are literally right here below my tattoo. So they were long enough to be in school. It shouldn't have been a problem. There was like 3 little kids running around out there, right? And I snapped at her. I said, oh yeah, because of sex offenders, right? I'm not allowed to dress like this. So that's also why I can't bring my children here. Why are there kids out there? And she said, go sit back down. I was like, ooh, I'm hot. I'm hot right now. You just pulled me back here for that? Like not even to fill out my schedule or UA, which I still had to do. I was like, okay. So I'm sitting in the main lobby and I'm stewing. Like I had already like filled out my schedule. I went and I handed it to the front lady and then I left. And they count that as a missed appointment. So I got a phone call saying that from my actual community control officer asking me why I wasn't there. And I said I was. I told her what happened. And I could just tell this woman like was done with me. She used to be a kindergarten teacher too. So her patience was up here. And she was just done. She's like, Aaryn. Well, I went home and I made a video. I was very angry. And that video alone got 500,000 views. Where I was talking about being dress coded at school, or not at school, at the probation office.
Well, there was like this stigma, right? And they were just coming after
me constantly.
Right?
They didn't like what I did for work or what I wore or how I spoke or anything. But I wasn't taking it seriously. About all I had completed for them was everything was paid off. So on the 10th of May, my youngest son returned home from Oklahoma. My oldest son stayed there. Excuse me.
Nice.
Yeah. And he was there for about 3 days before they came to my house. So my mom went out. I think she was at like a concert. It's like 9:30 at night. I'm feeding my son. And I hear these boom, boom, boom. Probation. I'm like, probation? Like, okay, I have to answer the door to police when you're on probation or just on community control. I had to answer the door. So I answered the door. It's a male officer and a female officer behind him. And first thing he says to me is, do you have somebody that can take care of him tonight? I was like, why? He says, because you're coming with us. I said, no, I need to talk to my attorney. And I go to like close the door. They V'd. She popped her hand up on that door. He came around me. They were getting ready to tackle my ass. I still had my son in my arms too. So I was like, no, come in.
For what?
Because I was getting ready to close the door on their face.
No, but I'm saying, why were they there? Why was he telling you you're going to go somewhere that night?
Told me that my probation officer had filled out a warrant the week prior.
Okay.
And I was like, I just saw them on Tuesday on the, like a couple of days before that. I said, I just saw them. They didn't say anything to me about it. They're not going to.
Right.
Because the chance of you absconding is
Right.
high. So if I hadn't gotten arrested that night, likely the next Tuesday that I showed up to fill out my schedule for community control, they would have
What are
taken
they
me.
arresting you for, though, exactly?
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
Non-compliance.
Okay.
They violated me on everything I hadn't completed. So I was just at that midway point. And so for all the evals that I didn't have done, they violated me. And then they violated me on a $4.13 per diem rate, just $4 on the ankle monitor, because they can't charge you until after the monitor comes off for how many days.
How many days? Yeah, right.
And they do charge you per diem. So on my discovery, it says unpaid $4.13. Meanwhile, I'm sitting with like 50 grand in my bank account and I'm like, yeah, it's not what happened. And it was really sad to see like that a lot of it was just them not wanting to deal with me anymore. So I went to court like my third week in jail, thinking I'm going home. Had given away all my canteen and everything. Told them I'm gonna be home tonight, take a shower, shave my legs.
So you've been in for 3 weeks at
Had
that point.
21 days at that point.
Okay.
And
You didn't know when you were getting out.
No. And honestly, because it had happened like quickly before, maybe 3 days here, 10 days here, a couple weeks here, I did think I was going home.
Right.
So when sentencing came about, they gave me back to my old judge because the judge that was handling my case had seen my TikToks and he respectfully withdrew. And so I was put back in front of a judge that hadn't really been dealing with any
That's
of
such
my
an interesting
violations.
thing to happen, that your judge has to recuse themselves because they've seen you on TikTok and have formed an opinion.
Yep. And the TikTok he was referring to was one where I was writing a paper when he had assigned me about Lowell CI Women's Prison, but instead of doing it on like the
You had like
center-
5 minutes to do it before it was due, wasn't it? Something like that?
No, well, I did it the night before.
Okay,
Because that's
the
how my
night
brain
before.
works.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
hopped on a live stream to do it. And I was like, I literally this has to be submitted by midnight.
Yeah.
So the TikTok where I'm saying like, I've got a paper to do by midnight and I haven't even started it yet. And that went viral, so the live stream, I had like 20,000 viewers just sitting in there. People are changing their freaking profile pictures to my study face.
Yeah.
I'm reading the information out loud as I'm discovering it, but I chose to do it on inmate abuse. And they didn't like that at all
Yeah.
because I had cited sources.
Yeah.
And it wasn't speculation in any way, shape, or form. I was doing an actual report on the prison. And so when I went before him in January and was put on the ankle monitor, that was when he stepped back.
Got
He
it.
says, I don't even know how I was made aware of the TikToks, but he excused himself. So, or maybe it was, no, he excused himself when I got to jail that time. That's why it took 21 days to go see Judge Brown because he had, they wanted me to wait another month. My attorney got me in quicker, but so there were 3 violations. Those violations each carry points with them. Florida runs on a point system for DOC. You score out to a certain amount of points, you're going to prison. I scored out to 16 months in the DOC.
Wow.
I was very scared when I got there. But I didn't take it seriously. I immediately got a trustee job.
Where were the kids?
My youngest son was with my mom in Florida. My oldest son was in Oklahoma.
Okay.
So with his Nana and safe. But I got a job on day 16 and worked all the way through. I was court ordered to do 180 days. I did 125. But on that court date, she was given the second violation piece of paper, not the third. The third, and I have a copy of it, had been penciled in and the points were penciled in and everything. So what she got was just the printed copy of the violation. I don't know if they didn't have it in their system or whatever, but instead of scoring out to 16 months DOC, she said 180 days in the county jail. I'm like bawling. But my attorney called me on one of the little visitation screens. He goes, "Did you see what happened? Did you realize what happened?" I'm like, "No." He was like, "She got the wrong violation. Like, she got your second violation in front of her instead of the third." He was like, "You scored out to prison time. There's no reason you should be here right now." And I'm like, well, I guess that kind of makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I worked. I did nighttime trustee work. So from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., I was working. I cleaned the general population pod of 70 women, the showers, the bathrooms. I did all of the laundry for the whites, so our socks and underwear. And it will humble you. It will humble you quickly. Also, just living with police will humble you. And then the girls that go there are a good reminder of like where I'm headed if I ever choose, and I'm serious, where I'm headed if I ever choose to make those same choices.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like I know what it looks like for me.
Yeah.
When I got out, I had made a few friends with the intention of drug seeking if I needed later. And so I got out of jail, and about a month into my freedom, I was like, I can't do this. No one needs me. My children don't need me. My mom doesn't need me. I had gained 60 pounds and I had just had a breast augmentation prior to going in there. And you don't get to look at yourself in the mirror when you're in jail. You get like a little sheet pan, a little baking sheet on the above the sink, and then the rec yard windows. But even then I wouldn't be able to see my chest.
Right.
And this implant had started to encapsulate, so it was still up here, and this one had dropped. And so I was like very uncomfortable with my body. I wouldn't have even been able to go back into sex work or OF after that. So I was like, the fastest way that I can think of to lose weight is to just not eat. I was like, so that was the reason why I wanted to lose weight. It wasn't even about like, I want to get high. It was, I need to lose weight.
That'll do it.
I need the energy.
Yeah.
I need people to need me again. So I have to get up and start doing something. And like, it's really sad. I can go back to the exact day that I relapsed. I can look at the video that I posted. I can see the light just completely gone from my face. And nobody would have known. No one would have known.
Yeah.
In fact, on any of those videos, I can see it and hear it. But nowhere in those comments do you see anybody saying, are you on something?
I didn't think you were, and I'm pretty good at pointing it out, to be honest. I don't know if it was the ring light or what, but
a lot
when was this?
This was 2022, so late 2020, October 2022. I relapsed on meth, and I was smoking it at first.
Yeah.
And
is this where Corey comes in too? Okay.
Yeah. So
and you guys met through TikTok, or
we did, and we had for about like.
And who's Corey?
My ex-husband.
He's a TikToker too.
Like, so Corey and I met, like not met, but the year prior on TikTok, which is connected, or maybe it was 2 years before that, because he had a viral dance,
right?
That made him go viral or whatever. It was like Genuine Pony and something crazy like that. But it was one of the only dances that I had ever done, and I had Jax on my back and everything, and he followed me back after that. Didn't really think anything of it till he started posting about his Twitter. And
and he was doing OnlyFans.
Me being a dirty dog like I am.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, I want to see. Okay, whatever. I want to see what these girls are talking about, because the girls in the comments are just like, oh my God, just going crazy over this man's member. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. Okay. I was like, well, maybe we could work together.
Yeah.
Right. And so that didn't ever come to fruition until obviously 2022. So I had gained a lot of weight, and I had told him that, you know, like, yeah, we can work together, but I've gained a lot of weight. I'd like to lose some of it beforehand. And he was like, you know, that's fine. You're beautiful no matter what. Come couple weeks after that, he had messaged me saying that he was starting a relationship with someone and that he wanted to just make sure that what we were doing was just for work. And I said, yeah. I was like, I don't think of you like that. I was like, but since you're asking me these questions, I said, I think it's probably best that we don't do this. I said, because if you're having to question whether it's this or that and you're moving forward with someone else, it's not appropriate.
Right.
So I was like, I don't want you to get confused by this. A couple weeks after that, he decides, I guess, that they just aren't a thing anymore. And he wants to come to Tampa from Jacksonville to work together. So I got us a hotel room. And I was using at the time, but I had switched to IV. So it was a little bit more concealed. But I didn't know really what I was doing. And after he had fallen asleep that first night, I stayed up making my own individual content and then decided I was going to go use and then I would leave. But I sat there on the floor searching for a vein for 4 hours, surrounded by bloody tissues. I'm caked in blood. I'm tweaking in front of the mirror and he wakes up.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
Jesus.
And he was someone who was in recovery, but I find out later that was kind of a falsehood. So immediately I feel bad. And he's like...
And he walks into this scene. Just
yeah. He wakes up from the bed and the bedroom and the bathroom had like this open, like it was like an archway. And I'm sitting kind of in front of the archway where there's a mirror on the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm just surrounded by these bloody tissues and like needle that still has blood in it and everything. And he's like, what can I do? And my brain is like, can you hit me? Like, can you find one? And he's just like, yeah. And it was really sad for me, like thinking back on it, just how little I cared about other people.
Yeah.
How little I cared about myself, but I was always more important than them. And so he gets it. I'm immediately like, thank you so much. Thank you. And then a couple minutes later, I'm like, do you think I could get another one?
Yeah.
And that's how it started.
Right.
And it wasn't, and he would hit me in places that I couldn't, my chest, my stomach.
Right.
And so there's an immediate codependency. I don't know if it was because he didn't know if I was going to be okay if he left or if he saw his opportunity to take advantage of me. I will never know. But he quit his job, moved in. Well, not immediately, but we had extended our trip by a week. And he was dealing with performance issues, like serious performance anxiety on camera. So I wasn't able to get any content with him. He was just doing things to me or whatever. But that made him feel really insecure in our relationship because we could have sex just fine off camera. On camera, I don't know if he was just overthinking it, but it was immediate.
Yeah.
And I was going to Oklahoma for Christmas, was on drugs, couldn't come off of them. I ended up abandoning my children that Christmas and flying to Colorado so that I could go to the AVN Awards. And yeah, nobody was even privy to me being a bad mom at that time. But I remember telling my mom, I'm going to leave all of you. I don't fucking care. I'm going to leave you all. You don't need me. I don't want to be a mother. All of it. Yeah. Right. And sorry. I love my children so much.
I know you do.
But I just didn't want to be around them like that. And I didn't want to be around anybody like that. I remember calling one of my childhood friends who's since passed. And this was the last conversation I had with her. She died that following month. But I got mad at her because all she could find was fentanyl. And I was like, I don't do that shit, Mandy. Like, come on. And I could literally hear the gray in her voice while I was on the phone with her. But I didn't care. Got mad at her because she couldn't find me what I wanted. So I was sober in Vegas that first time. And it was awful. I spiraled. I got pregnant on that trip. I got pregnant by a porn star. How that even happens, I don't know. But all of this was live streamed, posted. I talked about Corey's body and how it wasn't working right, and anything I could to deflect from what I had done and how I was feeling about what I had done, including with leaving my kids and making it him. I remember being grossed out by like a video that he had posted and I kept getting tagged in. And so I was like, I just don't like you. I just don't want to be with you. Right.
Yeah.
When I got back to Florida, I was using again almost immediately and wanted to apologize to him, but also wanted that codependency back. So this is where he quits his job and moves in with me.
Yeah.
And I'm using the whole time. I find out I'm pregnant at the beginning of February, and we started taking tests to try to see, like, gestation wise, who was the father.
Yeah.
Turns out it was Adam, and he knew that. But they had agreed that they were going to have a cordial relationship. Adam didn't want to be a father. He said, I'll financially support whatever you guys decide to do. So Corey kept telling me, I don't think you're going to love me if we don't have this baby. And so I got clean. My pregnancy was just like my second pregnancy where I'm vomiting constantly. So I spent like a good 4 weeks in the tub before, and this is the part that I've definitely been gatekeeping, before telling him that I needed to get high in order to go see what was going on with the baby because I was bleeding. And he cried. And he took me to, oh no, he didn't drive me. I drove to my dealer's house. I got what I needed. I came back and it was like dealing with a completely different person. And he was like, okay, we need to go to the emergency room then. Because that was the whole reason. So we go to the emergency room. I made him my emergency contact. He made that whole video and everything. But while I was back there getting an ultrasound, was when he was making these happy videos. So I'm hearing the heartbeat. And I'm asking her, I'm like, can I see my baby? And the tech should not have done this. But she showed me my little clump of cells. And I texted him immediately. I was like, the baby's okay. Everything's going to be fine. And so I get back in there. We're all celebrating. And surgeon, the charge nurse, and the doctor come in to tell me that it's not viable. And at first I thought they were lying. I thought that they just knew I was high and they wanted to take my baby from me. And I even asked them, I said, do I have a choice? Like, can you let me keep it? And they told me no, because Hippocratic oath, they have to save my life. He said it's a good thing that I came in when I did, because I had maybe another like 72 hours before it would have ruptured my fallopian tube. I was already bleeding internally. So I go in. They do the whole laparoscopic thing. I woke up really high on the morphine because I had gone in there intoxicated. I did not go back to sleep when I woke up. I made a couple TikToks that went viral about the situation, and went home and had I have a top lock dresser, and I usually keep my weed and everything in the left one, and I had a entertainment center TV stand that was like an all glass base, but there was about like maybe like this much between my dresser and the TV stand. And I slammed that top lock drawer shut, and out pops this shard, not like this long. I was like, bet, off to the races again. And I was high for 9 days straight, did not sleep. Putting Corey through all sorts of different live streams. He's listening to me tell him about my trauma. I mean, some of the worst things that have ever happened to me. And, you know, like just sitting there while I'm tweaking. I go to get on this Instagram Live. I'm really, really bad off. Really, really bad off. And one of my best friends who works in treatment, she texts me. She says, Aaryn, are you okay? And absolutely not okay. Was not okay. I immediately scrolled out of the live stream. I told her I was high and that I wanted help. And so her and her fiance Eli got me into the Mandala Center in West Palm Beach. So took me 2 days to pack because I had to make sure I had everything right.
Of course.
And I was very high. But I got there, and when I get there, they tested me for pregnancy, and it was positive. And I still had my incisions on my belly. You know, I had lost the baby 12 days before that, and I was like, I need my HCG levels haven't dropped yet. Like, I'm telling you, there's no baby. Like, he and I hadn't even had sex again. And they're like, well, we need you to just drink some more juice or soda or something so that we can get a negative test. I said, it's not going to change, and I'm high.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
So they made me test 3 more times. Bless you. Oh, so lovely.
Thanks.
It was cute. They all came out positive. I ended up falling asleep that night, just rocking back and forth. There's no baby. There's no baby. It was the first time I'd slept in 9 days though.
Yeah.
So I was out. And when I woke up, they had all my clothes laid out that they wash. They go through all your stuff. And they wash it. And then this treatment center particularly, they only give you 7 days worth of clothes, 7 days worth of underwear, and 7 days worth of socks before they do it again. So you don't end up with a crap ton of laundry for them too.
Right.
And they had given me 7 pairs of my period panties, my bamboo super absorbent period panties, and I was triggered. I was out. So I didn't have my phone or anything there with me. They told me I couldn't make a call until I was off the property and that they would drive me off the property. So they drove me to an emergency room, which is where I ended up making my call to Corey. It was a 3-4 hour wait. So I fell asleep on top of my suitcases and everything inside of a gazebo. And this was still very much when I was in love with Corey. Opened my eyes and I see him. He's got his hand on my shoulder. And I was like, how'd you even find me? He said, I looked for the air tag in your wallet. So he was driving. My mom was in the back seat. My son was asleep. And I screamed at all of them for the 3.5 hours because I blamed them for why I couldn't use anymore.
Right.
That was the argument.
Yeah.
Was I want to get high. You won't let me. That was it. And I remember I dumped a bag of Cheetos on my mom, straight up crumpled that shit, turned around and dumped it on her. And I came home, there was a angel statue that was sent to me by someone that I cared about, but I had never really considered her. I didn't have many friends at that time, but she was a nurse and I had been suicidal prior to that because of my pregnancy loss. So she sent me this angel statue holding a baby, and I got on TikTok and I smashed it. I was so angry that I didn't have my baby. And at that point, I think a lot of it was I had found a will to live through being a mom. Not for myself,
purpose.
but I had found a purpose with that pregnancy. And felt really guilty that I couldn't just stop for anything other than the pregnancy, right? My account was banned that day, and no one felt sorry for me after that. No one at all felt sorry for me losing my baby because I had smashed that statue. And I didn't want to elaborate on why. I pointed the finger at the girl saying that I had
been suicidal, and she sent me the suicide hotline number, and it was insensitive. So why would I want anything from her? You know, which isn't fair at all, because I was literally talking to a nurse. It's her job.
Right.
But no one really cared that I was going through anything. I had hardened, and I was like, all right, this is the stance I'm going to take. I'm just going to be angry about it. I don't care if they don't like me. I've got, you know, my husband, it doesn't matter. And I made a really bad name for myself after that. There was a lot that I did to cope that no one really knew I was coping that way. They just thought I was acting out.
Right.
So hypersexualizing myself again. I had started doing kratom, and kratom was kind of presented to me as an all-natural alternative. And I found out really quickly that kratom tea and extracts actually give me like a pretty euphoric high. So I ran with it. And in October 2023, I had to go to treatment for it because I was physically dependent on it. But that was how I kind of coped that first year in sobriety.
Right.
Was just reaching for other things. Kratom was one of them. But the whole Vegas thing happened. I planned a trip with another influencer and the guy that had gotten me pregnant, and I had lied to Corey. I used this man's stage name instead of his actual name that he knew him by, and said that was where we were going to be staying. And he was watching one of our live streams, and my live stream got spammed with what's wrong with him? What'd you do to him? And our marriage ended like literally that day. He wouldn't answer a single one of my FaceTimes, my phone calls, and all of our back and forth happened online.
Yeah.
Whether it was on live stream.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't get off. I wouldn't get off the live stream because I was being accused of doing so many things behind the scenes that in my brain I was like, well, if they can see me living life and not doing these things, then maybe it'll stop. And it didn't. It got worse and worse. And my snark page really blew up. I think there was like several thousand people on it, at least 10,000 people on it before it got banned. But it was just a constant attack. And I was one of those like LOL cows. I'd be having a full-blown BPD episode crying and losing my mind, and people just are screenshotting it to make it their profile picture or laughing. But if it hadn't happened in such a public way, y'all, I'll be real with you, I probably wouldn't be here today. I had to see what was happening with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And through clear eyes, like I had to get clean and see myself like that.
Right.
In order to change, in order to actually acknowledge that the people that were saying you're worth more, you can do better, you need to do better, your kids need you, like you're a bad mom right now. Like I had to tune into it and be like, yeah, I need changes.
Yeah.
So I went to treatment in October. I was really, really sick. Thought it had to do with my hormones. I left on day 16 to get the implant, went back in December. And I did my full, well, actually I didn't do the full 30 days. I made it to day, I made it to day 21. I had threatened to fight a Latin king.
Yeah. It's a pattern.
Yeah, it is
Aaryn
a pattern.
core. Yeah.
He was bullying
Yeah.
one of my friends, like straight up, like bullying him. And Blake had been there for the death of his partner, woke up to his partner dead, and had relapsed over it.
Yeah.
So he was processing things that this man couldn't even possibly think of. And this Latin king was, I've been through the program 1,000 times, so I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about AA and how to do it. But he's in there for the same reasons that we are,
Right.
you know. So he and I did not get along. I got up in his face. It was really funny because like nobody's holding him back. Meanwhile, I've got like two dudes like I'm behind them and they're like facing him. They're like, if she gets out of here, she's gonna kill him.
Yeah.
But I was already kind of like put in a position to where like I wanted to leave and I was gonna make any kind of scene there was to leave. And it wasn't I want to go home. I think it was I want to get high.
Yeah.
But I left and it was more or less out of spite. I'm not going to get high. But they discharged me administratively without any of my medications. And I was on mental health meds for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And I went through what's called withdrawal psychosis. And this is just before Christmas.
Oh my God.
So nobody knows this except for my family. I spent the first 2 days at home freaking out before I completely checked out, like derealization. This day, Christmas Eve, plays back like a really, really fuzzy dream. But my mom said that I wasn't blinking. She thought I was having absent seizures, that I would start a sentence and I would stop. And what it felt like was that I was just moving through a dream. It felt like I was walking through sand, like had sand in my mouth, like I couldn't. I remember being in the emergency room and looking at my mom and realizing that she's older now. And like I knew it was my mom, but I didn't recognize her. My son was touching my face, telling me it was gonna be okay, and I'm just not there. And so they Baker acted me. It was voluntary though, because they had at least asked me if you want help, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Asking for help was one of the greatest choices I've made to overcome my addiction.
If you or a loved one that you know is struggling with addiction, don't hesitate. You can reach out to any of us at any time to find help.
But I kept saying, I'm like, it's Christmas Eve. It's Christmas Eve. I can't believe it's Christmas Eve. Once that happens, once they Baker Act you, they then send what's called a patient care tech in there with you to watch you until transport comes, because he can't leave you unattended. So whether that's through the window or a chair in the room. There was a man, I do not know his name, but I know his face, who sat there and started talking to me about God. Started talking to me about Jesus. And when I tell you, that was like, I like came back. I was able to actually have a conversation with him. There wasn't much going through my mind, so a lot of it was yes or no, and I wasn't very long spoken. So when he had asked me if I wanted to say my salvation prayer with him, instead of being like, oh, I've done that 1,000 times, I don't need it, I just said yes. I repeated everything after, I repeated what he said, and I just remember feeling like, okay, like, this is rock bottom. But I got to spend the next 4 days in that mental hospital. And it was the most peaceful 4 days of my life. I slept. I read. Got to talk to a wonderful nurse there. And came home ready to be with my kids. And I got back on medication that is now saving my life. And even though I spent Christmas in a mental hospital that year, I got to spend Christmas this year with my entire family. Excuse me. So, came home, decided that my son's not going to sleep in my mom's bed anymore. He's going to sleep in my bed. I don't care how hard it is. I'm changing every diaper. I'm taking him to daycare. I'm picking him up. I'm making the food. I'm washing the clothes. I'm doing the baths, the toys, the bubbles, all of it. Because it was just too much for me before. And it was beautiful. I spent the first month of the year offline. And it changed a lot for me when it came to seeking validation from strangers. I realized very quickly that I had more control than what I had realized over how I felt online, because that's not the real world. It's a virtual one. But I had mixed it with my real world for so long, I didn't know the difference. So I started withholding a lot more. I went through a lot of silent battles on my own, which was beautiful because I didn't have the internet's opinion on it, just my support system. I, was able to celebrate a year off of Kratom, and thank you, quitting the industry, going back to school, having both my kids, all just in the last year and a half since going to that mental hospital, but it was necessary for me to even get the 2 years clean that I have. And at the time it felt very, very rock bottom, hopeless. It's never going to get any better. And when I tell you, there's nothing sweeter than what I have right now. The relationship I have with my children and my mom and my higher power outweighs anything. And quitting the industry, that was a leap of faith for me. It took me like 8 months to actually finally like quit.
Right. Scary. Yeah.
But it's been since September of last year since I've worked in that industry, and I'm so grateful. But I had to be okay with watching my money go from $30,000 a month to $1,200.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it's worth it. I'm making money on TikTok Shop now.
Yes, you are.
It is one of those like
you out here killing on TikTok Shop.
Yeah, it is.
Every day I'm like, oh, it's Aaryn. What does she have now?
What are you selling on TikTok Shop?
I do a lot of product reviews right now. So
okay.
I put out for free samples like nobody's business, but they send me like 175 invites a day. And the approval rating went from like 30% to now about 60%. So I'll fill out for like 150 items and I'll get most of them.
Wow.
But I mean,
What
it's
an
incredible
awesome
stuff.
shift, though, in
It
your life.
is such a blessing because I had a shopping addiction prior to that
Now
too.
you're getting for free.
So I was like scared. I'm like, how am I going to take care of my family, deal with my shopping addiction? Like, how am I going to stop?
Yeah.
I have to have OF.
Right.
No, because as it was all cutting back and trickling down, like my needs were less. I realized really quickly that my wants were determining my needs. If I wanted to look a certain way, then I needed to make enough money so I can go and get my injections and things like that. That's not a need.
Right.
You know, it's a want that determines your needs. And so I just changed what I wanted out of life. And a lot of that is just wanting to spend time with my children. And I have enough for that. Like, I know I'm showing up here in a t-shirt, but it's like, I feel good about myself today. I don't have to really like do too much to make me feel good about who I am, because it's from in here now.
That's right.
God, what a beautiful shift, though. I mean, from all of that to over the last year and a half, making this sort of
I'm just so
And it
fucking
wasn't
proud.
easy, and it was so scary.
right.
And I had so many people on my back telling me I couldn't do it. And I was just,
Yeah.
you just got to go.
Yeah.
It was do or die for me. It still is.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself that at any given point, like, I can lose control over my recovery, over my life, and I'll lose it all again, probably faster this time, you know. A lot of people will bring up Sean, Michael, my oldest son, how he's still in Oklahoma, but I'd like to counter with the fact that he was spared so much chaos and trauma.
Yeah.
And granted, like, my youngest son was living there. He was at school and my mom was taking care of him. And though he witnessed some things that that I'm having to kind of correct with behaviors now, it's nothing like what it used to be.
Right.
I used to think that I had abandoned him. And that was something that was constantly reaffirmed in my comment section, my DMs, but I didn't. I spared him. I trusted Sonia enough to give her temporary guardianship. And then a year later, after seeing how well he did, I trusted her enough to give her permanent. But at that time, I was in the middle of the whole Corey thing, and I would not have been able to bring him home.
Right. Yeah.
It would have been too much of that and not enough him. So now, I mean, he's doing so good. I am taking my youngest son and I to Oklahoma. We're going to move our lives there.
Oh, so you're moving there? Oh, wow.
As soon as I'm finished with paramedical.
Yeah.
Right now, I have to wait till paramedical to get both licenses. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to be moving to Oklahoma.
Paramedical is to do the body work.
Paramedical aesthetics is the medical support that you get like from a dermatologist. So I would be in there supporting medical treatments like scarring and burn victims and skin grafts, things like that. I'd be with paramedical. I'm allowed to do things like deep peels. There's a lot more treatment in that than just the relaxation or the pampering, you know?
Right.
You get a lot with the basic aesthetics too, but with paramedical, I'm going to be recognized more as being like on the medical totem pole, helping support those medical treatments, which is what I want. I want to help people.
Dude, I'm so fucking proud of you. I watched all of this unfold like in real time, and just to see how much when I called you the other day, I literally had just seen your like headshot professional bitch pictures, which I had never seen from you before, right? I've only seen like your sexy, messy Aaryn stuff, which I love too, right? But I was like, oh my God. Like you can tell that you've just put so much work in and truly have made such a change. And I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you. I can actually say
truly.
I'm pretty proud of myself today without
As you
feeling
should.
like vain about it. I do
As you
feel proud of
should.
myself. There's still more work to be done.
There always
Always.
is.
And I'm
Yeah.
obviously pushing through some health stuff right now, but I'm pushing through
Right.
it.
For
And-
anyone that doesn't know, that she literally almost died to get here. Like truly was puking for probably 12 hours or something.
Yeah. We got in the car 5:30 yesterday, and the last time I threw up was at 11 this morning.
Yeah. So it's still going.
Yeah.
And she's pushing through.
I am.
That's a trooper.
That's why my hair is plopped.
She knows the
But it's okay.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I just had to show up.
That's right.
Bring the body, mind will follow kind of thing.
That's right.
I'm a lot calmer now than what I was. Thank God for Amanda and her Zofran.
We love Amanda and her
Yes.
girlfriend.
God, I'm so blown away.
I know.
At that story.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That is really.
I appreciate you
like,
guys giving me
wow.
a place to share it too. Because like I
Yeah.
said,
I could tell that a lot of that needed to come out. Like, and I think that the people that listen to this, has the potential to help so many other people that are feeling alone. Cause you have so many different like branches.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much you haven't been through. I'm gonna be real.
I have a very colorful CPTSD.
Yeah.
From
So
a very young age.
Very young age. Yeah.
right. So I think that there's going to be a lot of people that watch this that have maybe felt alone or never heard their story come from someone else. And
Yeah.
like, I think it's really going to help
And
a
I
lot
hope
of people.
so. And I hope that those people, when they do hear this, they understand that like no matter what you're feeling in those moments, you are worthy of love.
Yes.
You are worthy of recovery and you're worthy of peace. And all of it, it can happen for you.
It can. It
Right.
can. Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys
Thank
giving
you
me the
so
opportunity
much.
to share. And thank
Yeah.
you. I love you too. It's been a
It's amazing. This was really, really amazing.
Fantastic.
thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being so open.
Yeah.
You know?
That's one thing I like. But what I always, Aaryn is always, and me and the girls always say this. We're like, Aaryn doesn't give a fuck. She's so open. She's so honest. She'll say whatever the fuck she wants, and I love that about you.
Thank you.
Like I love that. I know a lot of people, other people may not as much, but I think that just being real and authentic to you, and also being able to like admit, like you've just admitted so many things that you have done wrong. Like having that vulnerability and looking back, like hindsight is 2020 and now you're seeing things and you're able to be like, I was fucked up for this, this, and this.
Oh yeah.
I
you
think that's
feel
just, yeah,
I
exactly.
think feeling it is a part of that coming back to life. Where I was at that rock bottom, I was definitely like numb to everything, and being able to feel things, not having to reach for something to stop that feeling. Like I'll get it a lot. People are like, "You're always crying on this app," and I was like, "Just wait till you find out how much I cry at home." But I'm able to cry and feel it and let it go. It's not something that lingers. It doesn't
Right.
devastate me. And it's also not something that's so uncomfortable that I have to chase
Right.
other
Yeah,
things to stop it. I'm able to feel it, which has been a blessing.
Yeah.
So
I just love you.
I love
amazing.
you too. Thank you.